Extremely hot guys can sometimes be toxic. My last boyfriend was tall, handsome, great body, amazing jawline, sexy, great hair. He was a model, glowing skin, six-pack abs, perfectly symmetrical face. But then he cheated on me, and I wanted to make sure that never happened to me ever again. So I went for something a little more secure. My girlfriends are always telling me, what are you doing with him? Stop dating him, run, get out as fast as you can.
Wait, what?
But you know what? I can date whoever I want, and this is who I want.
Thanks, babe.
For now.
I'm a guy who's a 5.
I'm a girl who's a 10.
And we're dating.
So in this video, I want to talk about some of the reasons why you will get rejected even though you're a handsome and attractive guy. Because contrary to popular belief, not every woman is just going to fall at your feet because you're a good looking guy. And in fact, it may actually chase her away in some scenarios. And if you've watched some of my videos previously, you'll know that I've mentioned how there are some studies that show that women tend to score higher than men on average when it comes to neuroticism. And once again, this can come into play with a guy that she perceives as being highly attractive. And as a quick review, if you haven't seen my previous videos, neuroticism is one of the big 5 personality traits, and it is typically defined as a tendency towards anxiety, depression, self-doubt, and other negative feelings. All personality traits, including neuroticism, exist on a spectrum. Some people are just much more neurotic than others. So as it says there, neuroticism is on a spectrum. It's not that just all women are an emotional wreck, but they tend to be more susceptible to these types of traits, at least on average in these studies. And if you've dated for any extended period of time, you can probably attest to this being pretty spot on. Now, a lot of women I've spoken to over the years have a baseline assumption that most men are cheaters, or they have a higher capacity to cheat than women do. And whether you think that's true or not is irrelevant. It's more about their state of mind going into an interaction with you and understanding that. And this belief can become inflamed even more with a guy that she perceives as being highly attractive due to her assumptions that she comes in with ahead of time or she discovers after meeting you. And what I mean by discovering after meeting you is that she may not even be aware of certain insecurities that are within her until she dates a guy of a certain caliber in terms of attractiveness. A girl that has always dated more average guys may not even be aware that she will be in her head a lot with a guy that is above average. And the same goes for men, really. If you've always dated girls that are like a 6 or a 7 and then you suddenly pull a 9, you'll be met with new mental challenges and self-discovery that you weren't aware of previously. It reminds me of combat sports in a way, because with a combat sport like boxing or jiu-jitsu, you can train every single day and think that you're ready to go for competition, but then once you get to the competition, you realize that the only way to prepare for a competition is to compete a lot, because the environment and experience is so different from the gym. It's almost impossible to replicate a competition scenario in the gym. But bringing this back to dating, it's one thing to think that you want to date a girl who is an 8 or a 9, or for a girl to want to date a really handsome guy. But when you are actually in that scenario, you realize it's different from what you had imagined, even if it's just a little bit. And with women who tend to be more neurotic on average, there is a real possibility that the girl starts to get in her own head and think that she's not good enough to keep you or handle other women chasing you. In my experience, women are more aware of competition than men are. Guys tend to just hone in more on the girl being hot and wanting to sleep with her, while not really considering the problems that come along with dating a very attractive woman. But women, on the other hand, will run through scenarios and assumptions immediately. It's the first process that they go through rather than an afterthought. And these insecurities can flare even more if she sees girls that you've dated in the past, or she hones in on certain things that you express about girls that disqualify them from being attractive to you or worthy of dating. So for example, if you say you're not into girls who are overweight or girls that don't have a nice smile, they will sometimes run with that and start turning inward and becoming insecure about whether or not their body is good enough or if their smile lives up to your standards. And it can turn into this analysis of wanting to qualify themselves to you, but the insecurities start overrunning their mind at the same time. And the reason I use the smile thing as an example is because years ago, I went out with this girl off a dating app. And at the time, I didn't really pay attention to the fact that she never smiled with teeth in photos. And it was always just like a smirk in her photos. So when I met up with her, she smiled and I immediately realized why she didn't smile with teeth in her photos. Her teeth weren't horrendous, but her smile wasn't great, and it was a turnoff that she hid that in the first place. So later on down the road, I told this story to another girl that I was talking to, and she immediately ignored the story and turned inward about how she had to get braces when she was younger, and she was self-conscious about her teeth and all this stuff. And you could clearly see that she was in her head about what I thought about her smile. So my ultimate point here is that girls already deal with insecurities and neurotic traits as it is. And if she views you as an attractive guy that can pull attractive women, she could very well get in her own head about it ahead of time or while seeing you, and then pull back or reject you because it's just too much for her to deal with. It's like these TikToks where you'll see girls saying that they prefer to date medium ugly men. Or in other words, when they feel more attractive than the guy, it calms their insecurities versus being with a guy that they perceive as being highly attractive or more attractive than they are. And one of the ways you can start being perceived as highly attractive is by taking care of your skin, which is why I'm excited to have Tiege Hanley as the sponsor of today's video. Like most guys, I used to not care about skincare whatsoever and figured just washing my face with a bar of soap was enough. But over time, I started to educate myself more and more on the importance of proper skincare and realized that scrubbing my face with some soap in the shower wasn't going to cut it. And it was also just doing more harm than good. However, the problem was that I didn't know where to start with all the different options out there, so that overwhelm just caused me to procrastinate on getting a quality skincare routine together. But you guys are lucky because the Tiege Hanley system addresses that perfectly by making it simple to follow a step-by-step system that includes an easy to understand instruction card in every box. They tell you when to use each product, how much to use, and in what order, which takes all the guesswork out of it. I work out all the time and I train jiu-jitsu multiple times per week, which means it's a pain to keep my skin clear with all the sweat and the bacteria, but the products from Tiege have made a noticeable difference in the clarity and the texture of my skin. I've noticed that my skin feels softer to the touch and it has a healthier complexion to it overall. And if you're new to skincare, I recommend that you start with their level 1 system, which comes with all the basics: a daily face wash, an exfoliating scrub, and 2 moisturizers for morning and night. And in addition to having great skin, members of Tiege Hanley get tons of benefits, including at least 20% off the retail price, access to exclusive monthly deals, pause or cancel at any time, and free US shipping. And because Tiege Hanley is sponsoring today's video, they're offering my viewers a great deal. Just click the first link in the description and you'll get 30% off your first box plus a free gift. So don't miss out on this amazing deal and click that link to get started today. Now, another reason you may get rejected as an attractive guy is the comparison overload, which is closely related to my previous point. And we live in an age right now where comparison is just at an all-time high in general due to all the media around us and how social media is integrated into our everyday lives. And there's been studies that have shown that social media can decrease happiness and also cause more body image issues from comparing yourself to others online. And there was even one study about this specifically done with women. So keeping this in mind and bringing back my previous point about girls that you've dated before, girls will often go detective mode and search around on social media to figure out who you were with before and what girls are liking your photos and leaving comments. And in my experience, this always leads to comparison. They always compare themselves to the girls that are into you or the girls that you've dated in the past. And I've also never heard anything good come from this. It's always a negative comparison. I had one situation where I had a girl that I work with ask me for advice because she said that she looked up a guy's ex and she thought that the girl was a totally different type than her. And she felt like she didn't fit into what that guy found attractive, even though he was still actively talking to her and pursuing her. It actually took a bit more explanation than I expected to have her understand the idea that guys can have a type, but we can be open to other types too. She was clearly insecure about this previous girl and felt like she wasn't living up to a certain standard, even though she was objectively far more attractive than the previous girl. But these are the type of mind games that girls will go through when they're interested in a guy that they find attractive. There's more elements to this too. They may be nervous of being seen with you in the sense that they think you look better than them, and that can impact their self-esteem as well. I dated a girl when I was about 23 that told me flat out that the girl is supposed to be the pretty one in the relationship and that the eyes should be on the woman in that sense. That girl at the time too was just very competitive with me in every regard, no matter what. And as a side note, I recommend not dating women who will compete with you. But at one point when I was with her, I decided to get leaner and drop about 15 pounds. And once I did that, her quote word for word was, now I have to get hotter. Rather than just being happy for me hitting a new goal and looking better, she immediately turned inward and thought about her own attractiveness in comparison. But that's what can happen in general when her perception of you is that you are above her in terms of attractiveness. And it may once again get to a point where she doesn't want to deal with it anymore, or she rejects you ahead of time to avoid it in the first place. Now, this next one is one that you have to experience to really connect with what I'm about to say. And that is the fact that sometimes you will get rejected because a girl's friends are jealous that she's pulled you, and they will sabotage things behind the scenes by speaking negatively about you. Once in a while, you'll meet a girl who genuinely has cool friends, but a lot of women's friends are toxic and snakes behind their back, and women are aware of this too. They will often be the first to say how catty and conniving women can be, but the problem is that they will also have a blind spot for some of their closest friends that they think have their best interest in mind when they actually don't. I actually invited a girl out with a group of us that were bar hopping recently, and she brought a friend with her, and her friend had just gotten out of a relationship and I'd never met this girl before. So her friend starts talking to another girl that I knew in our group, and that girl that I know told me off to the side to watch out for this girl's friend because she was giving off kind of a bitter vibe and could be problematic if someone didn't keep her occupied. So from there I said, all right, no worries, thanks for the heads up. And as the night went on, that girl started drinking more and more, and none of my guy friends were interested in her, and the girls in the group also branched off as the night went on with the guys that they were with. So this leaves this girl's friend just kind of on her own doing her own thing. And she catches me alone off to the side at one point, and she starts telling me that I better be buying her friend drinks all night and that she's going to Uber home with her at the end of the night, and she's not going home with me and all this stuff. And in my head, I was like, who are you talking to? You're going to tell me what to do and you're going to tell her where she's going? And the thing was that the girl that came to see me was cool the whole night, but her friend put a really bad vibe on everything. She tried to sabotage things in her own way and it failed, but who knows what else she said to that girl I was with afterwards. And this type of scenario can easily happen to you whether you're aware of it or not. The thing is that misery loves company, and the other girls that I had around that night spotted it right away in that girl's friend. And girls who have friends in unhappy relationships or who are being frustrated with being single or just want their friends to stay single with them can really mess things up behind your back, or in that case, behind her friend's back. Her friend's attempt to sabotage things didn't work out how she expected it to, but it did sabotage things in the sense that it just kind of killed my vibe for the whole night and turned me off to the whole thing. And you generally have to be aware of a girl's friends and their perception of you because it holds a lot of weight. If her friends are hyping you up behind the scenes, it's going to increase that girl's desire for you by a lot due to that social confirmation. But if they start tearing you down out of jealousy or telling lies about you, things can go south quick and you just won't understand why. On your end of things, it'll just appear like the girl went from hot to cold out of nowhere, and sometimes you can't salvage that. It's just over. And you'll notice that some of these points come back to the root idea of the girl making assumptions based on her perception coming into the interaction with you, or thinking that she's figured things out by putting the pieces together with your exes, other girls around you, or experiences that she's had in the past. So another assumption a girl can make about you that can turn to rejection is assuming that you always get your way because you're attractive. And this one connects back to the assumption that good-looking guys have tons of options around. I don't know if you've seen clips of girls being interviewed and asked about what guys can do to improve their dating lives, but there are some clips going around on social media along these lines, and the response is usually just one of confusion. A lot of girls don't think guys have any problems in the dating scene, and especially not good-looking guys. Most of them are oblivious to the problems in dating right now, and what is really a dating crisis that is growing. So this type of viewpoint carries over in the sense that they're oblivious to the challenges that guys face in general, but especially oblivious to the life of an attractive guy, so they'll come to the conclusion that girls just bow down at your feet and you get whatever you want all the time. And this is especially intensified if you are charming and have good verbal game as well. If you're a good-looking guy that knows how to talk, you are going to eventually raise suspicion in some women, or they will be on guard and assume that you got that way because you know exactly how to charm women and you do it all the time. So how does this lead to rejection? Well, sometimes women will outright reject you because of that same charm or assumptions that you always get what you want. Some women will take pride in being the girl that you couldn't pull because it gives them a sense of superiority and control. It's a dopamine hit in a way that they were the ones that ultimately controlled the attractive guy and not the other way around like all the other girls, at least in their mind. Sometimes rejecting a man up front offers a woman a quick boost to her self-esteem rather than facing the possibility of rejection from someone that she feels is out of her league to start with. She's getting ahead of the game essentially. And another assumption that I've heard is that hot guys don't commit. And that is word for word another quote that I've heard on numerous occasions now. And as you can probably assume already, if a girl doesn't think she has any shot of you committing to her, there's a good chance that she will just reject you ahead of time unless she's also in a phase where she's fine with hooking up or having something short term. And don't get me wrong either, this isn't a black and white scenario where a girl will only hook up if she's not looking for a relationship and she won't hook up if she is looking for one. Girls will definitely consider hooking up or something short term even if they're actively looking for something long term. It just takes the right guy. But you will also run into women who simply don't want to deal with the idea that they have no shot with you ahead of time, at least in their mind, so they will just avoid you or reject you. This concept becomes even more prominent if she's had bad experiences in the past with falling for attractive guys and getting pumped and dumped or cheated on. Those experiences can leave a lasting impression that she carries into an interaction with you, and she immediately paints negative assumptions on you due to her past. You'll notice that a lot of these reasons for rejection are largely out of your control because it's left up to the girl and what's going on in her mind. So all you can do is just be the best version of yourself that you can be and move on to other girls. But going back to the idea of applying negative assumptions to you, women can also make assumptions about attractive guys just like how guys will with attractive women. You will often hear that the hottest women usually don't have much of a personality or there's not much depth to them. And that same type of thing can happen with a woman's view of guys that are above average in the looks department. Girls girls will sometimes assume that the more attractive a guy is, the less depth he has to his personality and the more superficial he is, or the sexual experience with him will be bad just due to past experiences. For example, I was having a conversation with a girl I dated a while back, and her sister was also there, and she chimed in with a story about how she had met this guy from the UK who was a model in the fashion industry. She said that he was extremely good looking and that she was really attracted to his accent and his personality as well, so the genuine desire all around was just really high. But when she went back to his place and they got into it, she said that the whole thing lasted less than a few minutes and that the lead up to it was way better than the actual act itself, and that she was just turned off to him after that. And that type of scenario is the reason why looks aren't everything. You have to deliver beyond that. And if you let a woman's expectations down based on her attraction level to you, it can just completely destroy everything. Now, with all that said, make sure you check out Teach Hanley by clicking the link in the description, and thank you to Teach for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. And going back to my previous point and story, it goes hand in hand with my video about how women will have certain expectations of you as an attractive man, and if you fail to deliver on those expectations, it just destroys everything and you can get rejected when you thought you had things in the bag. So make sure to watch that video next by clicking right here. And I will see you in the next one.